An excerpt from the book The Life of Love by James Mudge, published in 1902. How can we love everybody? What does perfect love demand with reference to our neighbors? It's a question requiring careful consideration, for it is quite as easy to put the standard too high as it is to put it too low. We think it well to remove some apprehensions by showing what the command does not mean. 1. Loving everybody does not mean that we are to love everybody in the same way. There are different kinds of love. Besides maternal or instinctive love, there is the love of complacency or approval, and the love of benevolence or goodwill and compassion. This latter goes out toward all men with little or no regard to their character. It is possible for us to feel and show the utmost kindness towards a man in whose conduct we take no pleasure. Moved by pity for his wretchedness, we put forth the most strenuous exertions for his help. Our love for him leads us not to approve, but to reprove. Yet it leads us also to do our best to make him such as we can approve. 2. Loving everybody does not mean that we are to love everybody to the same extent. There are different degrees of love in each kind, all proper and right. There are inner and outer circles of friendship. There must be. Jesus had them among his disciples. So too in regard to our benevolence. We are not obliged to do good to all alike. The apostle plainly recognizes this when he says, "Let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith." That is, to those who have special claims upon us, or who have shown special worthiness. 3. Loving everybody does not mean perpetual poverty on our part, does not mean that it's our duty to share our goods equally with those who have less. We can love people sincerely without feeling that it is our business to raise them to precisely the same level of comfort that we have, or, when that is impossible, feeling compelled to descend to the same level of discomfort that they have. It would plainly be most calamitous to have all good men reduced to poverty, and have only wicked men left in possession of property. Christianity is not communism, nor mendicant monkery. 4. Loving everybody does not mean, under all circumstances, peace. That is to say, it does not imply the obliteration of conscience, the abandonment of principle, and the renunciation of right. Very carefully put, it is the apostolical injunction on this head. If it is possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. It is not always possible, and it does not always lie with us to decide the question. First pure, then peaceable is the rule that must be followed. And he who regards purity or the discharge of his obligation to God as coming first will frequently find that contention, not peace, comes next. Spiritless acquiescence in the dominion of wrong is never right. It is not peace, but poltroonery. It is not love, but cowardice. When men would force us to do wrong, peace is sin. When men in our presence are wronging others, peace is base. And sometimes, when men are wronging us, it is our duty, for the sake of others, for the protection of the community, quite as much as for our sake, to give battle and to fight hard. Yet, we may be full of love all the time. And 5. Loving everybody does not mean that we are always to forget self. That would be to make love a blind enthusiasm. It would be to use up our powers heedlessly, foolishly, at haphazard, in ill-adjusted service. Some care of self is necessary for the largest, truest, and really noblest self-sacrifice. A man who is using his whole life in labor for others must, for the sake of those others, look after his own health and take proper recreation. A doctor or surgeon often has to postpone a particular service, however important, in favor of the general serviceableness of his life in the long run. To have some heed to oneself, refusing to incur needless risks, or to take on burdens too great for one's strength, is no evidence that one does not love one's work or the people worked for. These limitations, we believe, good sense and reason demand. They clear the ground for a more positive statement of what loving everybody really includes and implies.